There are moments in life when everything pauses. The air feels still, as if the universe itself has taken a deep breath and is holding it. You don't know why, but something is shifting. Time doesn't quite move the same way. The world around you hasn't changed, but something inside you has. A silence begins to grow, not from emptiness, but from a knowing. Have you ever felt that? Like someone is about to walk into your leaf node because you saw a sign, not because you were looking, but because your soul whispered, "Get ready." You can't explain it. There's no logic to it. No checklist to confirm what's coming. But it's there, quiet and undeniable. A presence that hasn't arrived yet, but already stirs your energy. Like the electricity before a storm. Like the calm before a transformation. Carl Jung spoke of moments like this. He didn't call them fate or coincidence. He called them synchronicities. Events that may seem random on the surface, but underneath, they reveal a deeper order. A hidden connection between your inner world and the outer one. Jung believed these weren't mere chance. They were the psyche reaching outward, a signal that your unconscious is preparing to meet something or someone profound. And here's the thing, these people, they don't crash into your life like thunder. They slip in, quietly, like a thread your heart already knows how to weave. They don't arrive to give you comfort. They arrive to wake you up. This video is not about love stories in the traditional sense. It's not about fairy tale romance or destiny written in the stars. It's about something deeper. It's about what your soul already knows long before your mind catches up. What if you're not waiting for a relationship? What if you're standing at the edge of a spiritual threshold? Not everyone who enters your life comes gently. Some come to disrupt. Some come to unravel everything you thought you knew. And some come not to stay but to leave behind a crack so deep it lets the light in. Because the truth is, some people aren't meant to be your partner. They are meant to be your turning point. So, if you've been feeling the shift, the quiet disconnection from your old self, the strange pull towards something you can't name, listen. Really listen. That tension you feel, that restless hum in the background of your life, it might not be confusion. It might be preparation. It might be the start of a meeting that will change everything. Jung believed that we don't meet others by accident. That the people who impact us most deeply, who rearrange us on a soul level, appear when we're ready, not when we're searching. Not because the universe owes us something, but because we've cleared enough space within for something sacred to arrive. This is the threshold. This is where transformation begins. And it doesn't begin with grand declarations. It begins with a quiet knowing, a stillness that says, pay attention. So before we go any further, I want to ask you one question, a question only your soul can answer. What if the person you're about to meet isn't someone you find, but someone who finds you? Not because you're lost, but because you're ready. Stay with me. This is not a story about love. This is a message from your soul. And if you're hearing it now, it means it's already begun. Have you ever looked around at your life, the job you chose, the relationships you've built, the routines you follow, and suddenly felt like none of it fits anymore? Like somehow, without realizing it, you've stepped into a version of your life that no longer feels like yours? It's subtle at first. You wake up one morning and the things that used to excite you now feel heavy. The conversations that once felt familiar now feel hollow. The people you once felt close to suddenly feel like strangers. And it doesn't come with drama or a breakdown. It comes quietly, almost politely. A gentle sense of disconnection that wraps itself around your day like fog. That's the first sign. The first indication that something inside you is shifting, that you're no longer aligned with the version of life you've been living. Carl Jung once wrote, "Transformation does not begin with events, it begins with the person." And that's what this is. A quiet transformation that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but with a growing restlessness you can't explain. You're not falling apart. You're being rearranged. And it's not chaos. It's preparation. Imagine your soul like a room that's been lived in for years. It's collected memories, beliefs, identities, most of which you didn't choose consciously. Maybe the furniture was arranged by your childhood wounds. Maybe the walls were painted by someone else's expectations. Maybe you've been living in a space that's been functional, even comfortable, but never truly yours. Then, one day, your soul begins to stir. It starts quietly moving things. You find yourself questioning a friendship that once felt essential. You lose interest in activities that used to fill your time. You start waking up in the middle of the night, heart beating, mind whispering, "Is this it?" At first, it feels like disorientation. But what if it's not? What if your soul is simply making space for someone who's about to enter? Think of it like this. Before someone special arrives at your home, what do? You clean. You move things around. You make space for them to sit, to stay. You prepare not because something is wrong, but because you sense something is coming. Your soul does the same. It starts pulling away from what no longer resonates, even if you can't yet name what it's pulling toward. It doesn't always feel graceful. In fact, it can feel like grief. Letting go of the familiar always does. But maybe this grief isn't an ending. Maybe it's a beginning. You're not disinterested. You're being redirected. You're not apathetic. You're being refined. You're not broken. You're being rewired. This is the stage Jung referred to as individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the masks, the conditioning, the unconscious roles you've been playing. And often, this individuation begins in silence, in the quiet ache of misalignment, in the strange, sacred pause between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's not comfortable. It's not meant to be, because change rarely shows up looking like clarity. It usually shows up looking like confusion, fatigue, even apathy. But look closer. Is it really apathy? Or is it that you're finally too awake to keep pretending? That the things which once felt important now ring hollow because you're seeing through them? You're not broken. You're becoming. And becoming requires shedding. Old habits, old roles, old identities. They fall away not because you failed, but because you've outgrown them. So if you feel like a stranger in your own life right now, take heart. That feeling is sacred. It means your soul is rearranging the furniture. It means something or someone is drawing closer. And no, you don't need to know who or when. You only need to listen. To trust that your discomfort is not dysfunction, it's design. You are not losing your way. You are clearing a path. So ask yourself this. If you feel like you're unraveling, what if you're actually being rewoven? What if this isn't about falling apart, but about making room? What if your soul knows before your mind ever will that someone is coming? And when they arrive, you won't need to force anything, because the space will already be ready. You'll be ready. You're not lost. You're being aligned. Have you ever noticed the same name showing up again and again? Maybe it's a song that follows you from the car to the grocery store to your dreams, or a city that keeps appearing in conversations, signs, stories, despite having no reason to be in your orbit. It starts small, a glance, a word, a number, and then it repeats. At first, you tell yourself it's coincidence, random, meaningless, but it keeps happening. You dream of someone you've never met, and the next day, you see their name in a book you weren't even planning to read. You think of an old friend, and 5 minutes later they call. You walk into a cafe you've never visited before, and a stranger says the exact phrase you whispered to yourself the night before. It's eerie, poetic, almost too aligned to be dismissed. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it synchronicity. Not chance, not logic, but meaningful coincidence. Jung believed that when something inside you is shifting, the world around you begins to respond. Not with loud declarations, but with whispers, echoes, mirrors. You don't control them, and yet somehow they know you. They reflect you. This is the second sign. The universe begins to speak to you, not in sentences, but in symbols, not in events, but in patterns. You start seeing repetition everywhere. A phrase, a face, a feather, something that feels oddly personal, like a secret only you can understand. Something that feels like it has a message, even if you don't yet know what it means. Synchronicities are not here to impress you. They are here to awaken you. They show up when your unconscious mind is preparing for something. When you're on the verge of meeting someone or becoming someone you were always meant to find. They don't follow logic. They don't wait for you to be ready. They simply begin, because beneath your awareness, your soul is already calling. It's already making room. And the universe, sensitive to the smallest shift in your energy, begins to reflect that inner movement. It's not trying to confuse you. It's trying to get your attention. But here's the thing. These signs aren't always clear. They don't arrive with labels or explanations. They ask you to feel, not to analyze, to notice, not to solve. Because synchronicity doesn't care if you understand it. It cares if you listen. Imagine this. You're in a used bookstore. You weren't planning to be there. You weren't even in the mood to read. But something pulls you in. And there, on a shelf you weren't looking for, is a book. Not just any book, but the one that holds the exact line your heart needed to hear. The same words that kept you up last night, questioning everything. You pick it up, you read the sentence, and you freeze. Because in that moment, something inside you clicks into place. That is synchronicity. It's not prediction, it's alignment. It's not about destiny, it's about resonance. These moments show up to guide you. Not towards someone else, but toward the version of you who is finally ready to meet them. Because the truth is, you can only meet a soul connection as deeply as you've met yourself. And so synchronicity becomes the path. Not a roadmap to the other person, but a mirror to your own readiness. It invites you to slow down, to observe, to recognize that what feels like coincidence may actually be choreography. Not every repeated number means something. Not every stranger is a soulmate, but if your heart feels stirred, if something deep in your gut whispers, "This matters," then it does. Synchronicities ask you to trust your own knowing, not the kind that comes from thought, the kind that comes from silence. They arrive when your soul starts speaking louder than your fear, when your unconscious begins to surface and say, "I'm ready." And if you've been seeing more of these lately, more patterns, more signs, more strange familiarity and unexpected places, it may not be random. It may be your life responding to your inner transformation, not testing you, but guiding you, because the soul doesn't shout. It nudges, and sometimes it nudges through a lyric on the radio, a billboard on the freeway, or a memory you didn't expect to return. So, if you're noticing the echoes, pay attention, because someone may be walking toward you. Not as a reward, but as a reflection. And those signs, they're not breadcrumbs leading you to them. They're leading you to yourself, to the version of you that's ready to be met. Because before two souls find each other, they must each come home to themselves. And synchronicity, that's the sound your soul makes when it knows the meeting is near. One of the most unexpected signs that you're approaching a soul-shifting connection is this. The past begins to resurface. But not as memory alone, as emotion, as energy, as unfinished stories that knock quietly on the doors you thought you'd locked long ago. You might find yourself crying without knowing why. Old fears you thought you'd overcome come creeping back. A childhood memory flashes in your mind out of nowhere. The face of someone who hurt you appears in your dream. A conversation from years ago returns, echoing with new weight. It's not random. It's not regression. It's your unconscious, preparing you for something deeper. Carl Jung called this shadow work, the process of facing the parts of yourself you've ignored, suppressed, or denied. The parts that never got the love, the voice, the space they needed. Not because you were weak, but because at the time, survival mattered more than self-exploration. Now, something inside you is shifting. Your soul is clearing space. And before someone meaningful can enter, your inner world demands honesty. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Because you cannot invite someone into your heart if that heart is still cluttered with unspoken grief and unhealed wounds. Think of it this way. You wouldn't invite someone into your home while the living room is full of broken furniture, old boxes, and dust you've ignored for years. You'd tidy up, make space, maybe light a candle. You'd want the space to feel safe, warm, open. Your inner world deserves the same. So when the emotional clutter starts rising, when you feel like you're breaking down for no clear reason, pause. What if this isn't a breakdown? What if this is the beginning of being rebuilt? What if every tear, every tremor, every sudden wave of feeling is your soul sweeping the floor, rearranging the walls, unlocking doors that were sealed shut? This isn't just healing. This is remembering. Remembering who you were before you learned to hide. Before you were told you were too much or not enough. Before you built walls to keep out pain and ended up keeping out connection. Jung believed that real love, the kind that transforms you, cannot take root in shadow. It grows in the light of awareness. And to get there, you must first walk through your own darkness, not to fix it, but to face it. This is not easy work. It's quiet, tender, sometimes agonizing, but it's sacred. It's the soul's way of saying, I want to be met fully. I want to be seen, not for who I pretend to be, but for who I really am. And so, before the person arrives, the one who will mirror you in ways you never imagined, you start meeting yourself. The version of you who's been hiding beneath the noise. The version who once needed to be held but instead was told to be strong. The version who gave too much, stayed too long, hoped too hard. They rise now, not to haunt you, but to finally be acknowledged. Because here's the truth. The people who change us most deeply do not just enter our lives. They enter our psyches. They find the places we left unloved. They reflect back the parts of us we thought we had to abandon in order to be accepted. And unless we've met those parts first, we may reject them when we see them in someone else. You can only love another soul as deeply as you've dared to love your own. So if you're feeling fragile right now, raw, easily triggered, uncertain, take it as a sign. You're not breaking. You're being opened. Not for pain, but for presence. Not for shame, but for truth. Shadow work is not about fixing what's broken. It's about reclaiming what's been buried. And what's been buried still lives inside you, waiting for compassion, for light, for the moment you finally say, you're allowed to exist. Because when you welcome those parts of yourself, your longing, your anger, your fear, you become whole. And in wholeness, you stop searching for someone to complete you. You start becoming someone who can meet love with open eyes. So if it feels like the universe is delaying your connection, if you're wondering why they haven't shown up yet, ask yourself this instead. Am I truly ready to be seen? Am I willing to meet someone not with my mask, but with my truth? Because maybe they're not late. Maybe you're being prepared to meet them in a way that matters. Not with your walls, but with your soul. There comes a moment quiet, soft, almost unnoticed when something inside you shifts. You no longer feel the urge to chase, to search, to grasp. It's not that you've given up. It's that the hunger has settled. The noise has faded. And in its place, something else arises. A calm, not the kind you force, but the kind that finds you. You wake up one day and realize you're not waiting anymore. You're not anxiously scanning the horizon for signs. You're not molding yourself to be chosen. You're not clinging to the hope that someone will arrive to make life feel whole. Because somehow, you already feel whole. And yet, in that stillness, there's a strange sense of readiness. You don't know who's coming. You don't even know if anyone is. But you feel it. A knowing without proof. A recognition without a face. Carl Jung once said, "We do not attract what we want. We attract what we are." And perhaps for the first time, you are becoming someone who no longer needs a mirror to feel real. Someone who no longer needs love to feel worthy. Someone who no longer needs attention to feel seen. You've begun to embody what you used to seek. And that changes everything. Because when peace arrives, desire no longer controls you. The anxious pull to be noticed, to be validated, to be saved, it dissolves. In its place is quiet certainty. I am enough. I am here. I am ready. This readiness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence. From the slow, patient work of tending to your own heart. From the silent courage it takes to sit with yourself. and not run. This is what it means to become magnetic. Not because you're trying to attract, but because you're finally aligned with your values, aligned with your truth, aligned with the version of you who doesn't need love to feel lovable but welcomes it without fear. That's when people start to feel you, even before they meet you, because you're no longer sending out signals of desperation or doubt. You're sending out the frequency of calm, of clarity, of quiet power. And here's the paradox. It's usually in that stillness when you've stopped reaching that the right presence finds its way to you. Not because you were waiting, but because you were becoming. This kind of meeting isn't fireworks. It's not instant intensity. It's stillness, familiarity, a sense of course. It feels like exhaling, like a long-forgotten part of you finally coming home. But this peace, it didn't come from finding them. It came from finding you. From listening to the silence that used to scare you, from trusting that your soul knows the way even when your mind does not. So if you're in that space, now that sacred stillness, honor it. Don't rush it. Don't try to fill it. Let it deepen. Let it become the ground you stand on. Because the person you're about to meet will not complete you. They will reflect you, and they can only reflect what you've allowed yourself to become. So maybe, just maybe, they are already closer than you think. But first, come close to yourself. They don't come to complete you. They come to reveal you. Carl Jung once said, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises." And maybe the one you're about to meet is just that, a mirror, a message, a moment of recognition so deep, it shakes the dust off your soul. So stop searching outward. Start living inward. Live honestly. Live fully. Live as if the meeting has already begun, because maybe, in some invisible way, it has. And if you feel like you're standing at the edge of something new, if your soul has been whispering more loudly lately, leave a sign. Comment "I'm ready" below. Let your readiness be seen. And if this spoke to something deep inside you, don't forget to subscribe. So the next time your soul needs a reminder, we'll still be here waiting in the quiet, right where you left us.